All right, let me. Obviously, the big game on Friday. How much are you looking forward to it?
Yeah, very much so. It's been a weird one. We're into the second last game of the season, and the season's just gone so fast and so quickly, and we find ourselves back in the same position that we were this time 12 months ago. So I think the group's worked really hard to get back in with this opportunity. Completely different squad than what we had last year, and we're excited. It's been a good year for the club. Obviously, finishing highest that we've ever had. Our first home final last week, which was a sellout and great atmosphere and a really strong win. So we'll go into this week with a lot of confidence, and we'll give it a good crack.
So obviously, last year's semi-final. What lessons do you take from that you can use this year, or have you already worked on those in the previous meetings with Wigan?
Yeah, I think it's ongoing because it's I touched on this all the time with there being 12 new faces in the group. It's about learning and keeping those learnings from last finals into this year. But I think the biggest turnaround for me was 4 months after we got touched up there by him. We won in the 84th minute in round one in February, the start this year, which broke the hoodoo really in beating Wigan on our promotion, our first win after being promoted back up in 2023. So there's been a lot of different moments and growth within the group, and that first one was certainly a great way to start the season.
Do you need any psychological impetus with your side, particularly like that everybody will say you're underdogs in this one, for instance?
No, not really. I don't really look into that too much, Trav. It's about being in the moment and being present. It's things happen every week, every day, as we all know, and things can happen at different points in the games. Players can get injured and changes being made in the field. I remember going to that semi-final last year, and Frankie Holton and Kai O'Donnell weren't playing in that. We had a few injuries and nigglies, so things can change and happen very quickly. So we've just got to be present and make sure that we play the moment for its value of what it is.
And what about Wigan? Obviously, they look like they're going to be at full strength.
Yeah.
And, of course, they've got the superstars in Field and French. How do you approach that?
Well, that's just what we expect of them every time we've played them. So, I think they're a team that is a big games side that have won some big matches, probably more than anyone in the last couple of years. And it's going to be a difficult challenge for us to go there and to win. I think they're 5 or 6 wins in a row now too. Probably with the arrival back of Bevans has probably helped that, given them a lot of confidence, and they're certainly connected as a team.
Lachlan Lamb obviously was subject to a disciplinary part of the process on Monday. How relieved are you that at the moment he's free to play?
Yeah, well, there was no charge from the RFL, from the match review panel about that, and I'm not too sure exactly what stage that is at. But I think all I will say on that is that officials from our club will deal with that as it unfolds. But we've got nothing too much to be concerned about, in our opinion.
What about your team overall? Any injury doubts?
No, everyone's good to go. There is a bit of a sickness going around the camp. I think there might be at every club at the moment, all the clubs that are remaining. I've had probably half the group not train this week so far, so that's always a little bit alarming, but I'm sure that they've got it at their end as well.
You did say right at the beginning of this that it's the second to last game of your season, so you're confident that you'll be in the grand final.
Oh, I like the way you're thinking, Trev. Yeah, I'm not sort of ready to not be coaching next week. I understand the processes involved with it, but what we see it as is an opportunity for this group on this current journey. I think it's been nice to see us tick some boxes along the way this year, as we have done every year, and finishing high up the ladder certainly shows the trajectory that we're on as a club. And I think the more of these games we play, the better we're going to be. And to think that we'd be 80 minutes away from Old Trafford 2 years in a row as the Lee Leopards is an incredible story, But having said that, we want to achieve things that we've never done before as a club, and winning our first home quarter final last week was one of those. Having a home final was one of those, and we've got to do things we've never done to get what we deserve so much. So we know we've got to probably play better than we've played all year. We know that it's going to take an almighty effort to beat Wigan at Wigan, and we know that not too many people are going to give us a chance. So we'll do everything we possibly can to be there or thereabouts when the game counts most, and fingers crossed a little bit of luck goes our way, and we can get the results that we deserve. So we're prepared for that, and we'll see what happens.
Cheers. Thanks, Lemmy.
Thanks, Trev. Anyone else, boys?
Yeah, I'll jump in. Hi, Adrian, hope you well.
Hey, Josh, thanks, mate. You okay?
Yeah, good, thank you.
Good.
Just one final one on Lachlan. Obviously, it was a big talking point yesterday. How confident are you that it won't be a distraction, or has been a distraction yesterday? It won't be a distraction for the rest of the week?
Well, that's the key word. The key word is distraction. And we're pretty confident here, very, very confident, in fact. But I don't want to focus on that as I've got a lot of other things to be concerned about, to be honest with you, including picking the best 17 to play. But that's not going to interfere with the way I think, or the players, or even Lachlan. So we've moved on from that quite quickly.
Yeah, I mean, on the field, I suppose what we should be talking about is the battle of the halves in Lachlan Land versus Bevan French. Is that a battle that everyone should be excited to see come Friday?
Yeah, absolutely. There are some great battles right across the pitch there. So, I think we've sold out our first part of the stands. I think there's no more tickets available for the Leigh fans to buy. So that's a positive sign for the game and for the crowd at the Brick Stadium against Wigan on Friday night in the semi-final. And it's how it should be. We're excited. It's the battle of the borough. Everyone's going to be there. There's only one game of rugby league on Friday night. We're all good to go.
And you mentioned the squad changes. Obviously, you've got an ever-present there in Isaac Liu. How important will sort of his experience and other players' experiences be in a big game like this who've been there and done that? Well,
I think Isaac's been probably one of our best players over the last month, to be honest with you, and he's gone under the radar for the whole year. I think he's certainly his leadership. He's also got a quirky side about him, a bit of a funny side too that the players have taken a warmth to, and I think also he's got that experience. He's won the big games in the NRL and won a lot of grand finals there. So we're going to rely on him a fair bit. Offer Hingawi as well. His experience is going to be great. There's a match up through the forward pack there, through the nines, through the halves. But obviously, Bevan's a big key for them. So, we've got to try and do our best to keep him quiet.
And just on the flip side of that, and the last one for me, there's players like Bailey Hodgson. This will be the biggest game of his career so far. How does he take this week into his stride and be the best that he can on Friday? Yeah,
we've been lucky, obviously, on Bailey in regards to Davey Armstrong being out for the season with the ACL injury, and Bailey's come in and done an incredible job. I don't think this will phase him one bit. He's one of those players that just looks like he's had a rugby ball in his hands since he was walking. So he's got plenty of energy, and I think he's played reasonably well in the big games so far this year. So I'm excited to watch him go.
Nice one, best of luck this week.
Thanks, Josh. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Hi, Lemmy, you all right?
Hey, Ben. Very well.
Just a couple from me, really. We talked about him on Friday night, but after that performance, is there any way that Ethan can break back into the 17?
Well, he's always got a chance there, and we've had clear communications what role he has at the moment, and he's doing his best to force his way into that team. It's a decision that we'll make probably on game day after captain's run, and then we can go from there. But he's certainly not out of it. He's a quality player, and he's played some of his best rugby against Wigan as well, to keep that in mind. So,
I mean, I guess the players that don't get into the 17, how important this week especially is that role of sort of being the cheerleaders of backing the teammates and the mates?
I think we've been reasonably good with that all season. It's part of our standards that we set, and those players know who they are and what their roles are within the group within that week. So, we're going to take a really strong 17 there, what we feel, and give our absolute all. But the other players have played a part in that success as well.
And just lastly, I wanted to ask you about your sort of time as coach at Wigan. We know it didn't end in the way you'd maybe wanted it to, but you were moments away the season before from winning a grand final. Is there sort of some demons to exercise there for you?
Oh, don't bring that up, Ben. Don't bring up that moment. It still sticks in my head. But yeah, that was obviously with no crowd in COVID. Obviously, yeah. I think obviously my time now is a focus on our team and what we're building towards it. I'm really excited about what's ahead for us, regardless of what the outcome is on Friday night, whether we go through to Old Trafford or for the next year or 2 or 3 years. I'm really excited about where this team's going, and I think we've got some really positive times ahead for us, not only as a coach but as a club, but also a fan. I think the Leaf fans are going through a really golden period at the moment, one that they've in this lifetime probably not experienced. So hopefully there's some more good times ahead.
Cheers, Ollie. We'll go Friday night.
Thanks, guys.
How are you doing?
Good.
You probably get asked this question every time you play Wigan, so apologies for this. But what do you recall about your time sharing the coaching duties with Matt at Wigan, and were there things that he did then that sort of marked him out to you as a guy who could go on and achieve what he has achieved as a head coach?
Yeah, well, I think at the time we had some really good coaches there, in Sean O'Loughlin, Matty Pete, we had John Winder as well, that were all contributing to the success of the club. So obviously there now they've got Deacon that's come in, they've got Tommy Lulawai that's been added to that. So and then obviously Matty's that's done a great job there over the last couple of years. So there's certainly no shortage of coaches that are there that are quality. And the biggest strengths of Wigan's is probably their junior development program and the recruitment of those young players into that to be able to set them up to where they've been. So in my time there, I think I brought through a lot of those young players. I know the first year there we didn't recruit anyone, and the word was that they weren't going to spend any money that year. But that was a great part of my experience there. Bringing those young ones through and watching them come through and develop to where they are today certainly was a highlight there. But it's in the DNA. It's the same as St Helens the other night when they weren't playing the best rugby yet they found a way to win in the last five minutes, and that's just the way these big games unfold. We've got to make sure as a club at Lee here that all of these big matches that we're involved with, we learn from it and we grow from it, and it helps us develop that DNA as a club moving forward. And I said earlier last week that we messed up the semi-final in the Challenge Cup, so we needed last week to be a lot better than that. I thought it was pretty close to being perfect, and we need to marry that up this week and certainly find another level on top of that.
What impressed you most about Matty when he was your assistant, if anything?
No, he was just learning along the way there. I think just his understanding, I guess, of the Wigan system being coming through with the junior programs and the junior players that were there. I think anyone that's come through a system from scratch certainly is in a better position than most coaches.
Adrian, you all right?
Hey, Sam, good? Self?
Yeah, I'm good, thanks. Yeah, we've mentioned recruitment a lot this year and the fact that it's almost a totally new team. So obviously that's an element for why last year's semi-final doesn't really mean much in terms of this year's semi-final. But with the additions of Leo and Offahengawi,
yeah,
was there a clear sort of motive to get those experienced players that have the big game experience? I know Hull Care have done it with Mickey McAlorum and Jared Warrior-Hargreaves. Was that part of the initiative, or was it just that they were the best players that you had available?
Yeah,
anyway?
I don't want to give away too much on it, but there is a philosophy around a style that we want to play and a player that I want to be able to fill those positions. So, what we did do was get rid of a few experienced players, which was hard to do when the time came. But I think I've been quoted as saying, what happens is you have a philosophy about where you want to go, but when that time comes, the relationships that you build with those players, such as the Ricky Latellis and Zach Hardacres and Ollie Holmes and the Ed Chamberlains and John Asiatas, Tom Amones, Kai O'Donnell's, it just goes on and on. You don't want to break those relationships, so it's very hard to make those decisions when they come. But we stuck true to that, and we changed those players for a slightly different style, and we're going to do it again, and we're going to do it again until we get it right. So But that's part of being successful and understanding who you want to be as a club, and that's why these moments are really big for us, because it's a semi-final. Like, if you'd have said a couple of years ago, Lee Leopard's going to play in the semi-final 80 minutes away from Old Trafford 2 years in a row, everyone would go, really? It's been an incredible rise, but we're not finished yet. We're not happy with just being a part of that. We want to keep going, and I think it's very difficult to see long term where we could end up. But pretty excited about everything. Derek Beaumont, the owner, as the support that he's given me personally around the recruitment side of things, and the type of player we want to bring in here has been very supportive. And I think we're not quite finished yet. We want to make sure that we go to Wigan and give the best version of us, and see where it takes us.
Yeah, just lastly, you mentioned that there's a bit of illness about, which you maybe don't know who's going to be available, who's not. But there's no niggles from Friday night, is there? Is it just the illness that's the concern at the moment?
Yeah, that's the major concern at the moment. I mean, this time of year, there's always niggles with everyone, and that'll be right through the remaining clubs that are here. But you just get on with it, you deal with that. But yeah, it's the illness that's the concern at the moment.
Yeah, well, hopefully that clears up, and best of luck on Friday.
Yeah, thanks,
Cheers.
Sam.
Hi Adrian, it's Martin here.
Hey Martin.
Good to see you, mate.
Good to see you.
Good luck on Friday.
Thank you, mate.
How are you going to pace this game, mate? Because it's you came out against Wakefield and really imposed yourself in the first half of the game, and you'd won it really by half time to all intents and purposes. Are you going to try and do the same thing against Wigan? Are you going to try and get really on top early in the game? Or do you think you're going to have to pace it for 80 minutes? And
Martin, the less you know about our tactics, the better. Otherwise, the rest of the Greater Manchester will know, mate.
But you've got a plan, mate. That's the main thing.
Yes, there's a plan. There's a plan to every game. Look, I think I'd like to think that we can maintain what we did. It is big game mentality. Wigan has certainly got to go another level, aren't they? They've had 14, 15, 16 days off, whatever it is. So they're going to be pretty fresh. So we've just got to make sure we manage the start really well. There's going to be difficult periods that we've got to get through and see out. So we've got a plan for all of that. So I'm pretty excited.
Have things changed much over the last year? Bearing in mind last year you did have that, fairly heavy defeat at this same stage of the season. Has that influenced how you're preparing for this game this week? Are you doing anything consciously different?
I think when you lose like that in those particular games, you want to learn something from it. So I think I've got notes there that have gone back on and thought about how we could do different things. But even the lead up to it, like I felt last year, I think we won 11 out of the last, or 13 out of the last 15 games, and we went in there on the back of a real emotional roller coaster. And when we got there, we literally choked. So things will be slightly different, but we were incredible to win the 13 out of 15 to get there. Like I remember every game was, if we lose this, we're out. If we lose this, we're out. And I remember one of the last games here being St Helens at home. We needed to win that to make sure that we're guaranteed in the semi-finals, and that was close right to the very end, and we got that. But we were emotionally drained, I felt, by the time the end of September come around. So we've tried to keep them a little bit fresher this time around, and a little bit of a different approach as we come into it. So yeah, there are things that are slightly different.
A bit less emotional, hopefully, and more pragmatic, I would guess, is the message.
Yeah, I think so. But having said that, I thought the way that we played last week was right where we needed to be. We've just got to be able to manage that against a way better team at a higher intensity, and that's the challenge.
And just one final point, mate. Derek is obviously I think he's probably still a season ticket holder at Manchester United. He's got great affinity with Old Trafford. Has he sort of said anything about that? Do you feel as though, this is, if you could deliver a win here, this is really what Derek is aiming for? He would love to lead out his side at Old Trafford.
Yeah, I think it's more about the group. Obviously, it's important that we'd love everyone to find a little bit of success in the next 2 weeks. I mean, that's a dream of every coach and rugby league player in the world. And Derek's obviously very passionate, and he'd love to be a part of that. But you know, I think it's one step at a time for us, and not to get too far ahead. You know, I'm sure if we end up getting to Old Trafford, there he'll end up hiring all the boxes for the 10,000 fans that we need to take there. So, but yeah, it's one step at a time for us, mate. We can't get too far ahead.